My name is Regina, this is Philip. We are the co-founders of Microbird Games, and we're making a game called Dungeons of Hinterberg. I'm more of the art direction side, and my partner Philip is more of the technical side.
And together we lead a team of currently 9 people based in Vienna, Austria. So it's an action RPG with some social simulation elements, and it's set in the Austrian Alps, where there's a small village called Hinterberg, where a couple of years ago 25 magical dungeons appeared out of nowhere. And this created a huge tourist industry, and adventurers, influencers, and weird people from all over the world come to Hinterberg to slay monsters, find epic loot, become heroes. It's this mix of modern-day village life, Central European life with a magical element.
So our game was inspired by several games. We loved the Zelda series. Obviously, a lot of the old school Zeldas were a huge inspiration in terms of puzzling and using magic skills and so on. Persona series was, of course, a huge inspiration for the social sim part. We played Persona 5 and loved this, like hanging out in this case in Tokyo and socializing with other characters. So we kind of were inspired by that to create the town of Hinterberg and all the people you can interact with, and how these social interactions then kind of give you rewards for the gameplay, for the action gameplay part. Yeah, I think those were 2 of our main inspirations.
I think we generally really enjoy when games give you a place that feels real, that you can, inhabit for a while, that you can feel at home at, that you can visit every night. And in that regard, the Persona series does an absolutely stellar job. So that was a huge inspiration for Dungeons of Hinterberg.
It's, every Zelda comparison you do is always a nice and intimidating thing all at once, kind of, because, it's one of the genre classics and beloved by so many people, including us. And it's kind of this charm of being in a modern environment where there's, a cable car up a mountain, and then yet you still have a sword, but the sword looks a bit like, a ski gear manufacturer made it or something. So it constantly plays with the modern normal world, and then the magic dungeons and the monsters. And we strive to kind of give you an experience that is as charming as Zelda is, but of course it's always a tall order to compare yourself to.
Yeah. I love the comparison, but I always feel like it's worth pointing out that we're an indie team with an indie scope. Yeah,
especially with, we often say it's inspired heavily by the old school Zeldas, because we don't have an open world that can compete with, Breath of the Wild, for example. We are much more contained, and it's a non-linear game, but of course it's not an open world game, so. It's a certain restriction that we have a game where in the morning you decide which kind of biome to go to, then during the day you are there and you can enter a dungeon, and then once you return it's the evening, and we let people roam free, and then they can do, for example, as much shopping as they want, but they can only do one kind of main hangout, we call it, hang out with one character, or have your character go to the spa on their own to relax, or to the cinema. And it's, of course, we introduce maybe a bit of, I'm gonna call it tension, that people have to decide, this character or this. But at the same time, we always tell people it's kind of a vacation. It's a vacation for the character Luisa who comes there, and it's a vacation also in kind of a meta sense for the player. You just go to Hinterberg and then you can have fun there and explore. So part of a vacation is that you can either have super full-on adventure every day and try to finish a dungeon every day and maximize that, but you can also take it much more chill. You can just not do a dungeon one day, you can return to the village early, or just do something chill out in the mountains, for example, and then you can just return and hang out with someone. And if you can't choose between 2 people, just go the next day. There's basically no forced time pressure. You can advance as fast as you want, but you can also take it much more chill.
We're not putting any sort of time pressure on the player in the sense of there's 25 dungeons, you only have 25 days for those. You can take it as slowly as you like. If you're the sort of person who enjoys the socializing part, if you're the sort of person who just wants to take it slowly, you can play for 50 days or 70 days. Nobody is stopping you from taking your time if that's what you prefer.
It's very bold art style. It reminds you maybe of comics or animated movies. It's not after realism at all. And part of it is just that both Philip and me really enjoy stylized things and games and media in general. Like we took a lot of inspiration for this art style, not just from within the medium of games, but for example, animated movies like Into the Spider-Verse, which was like big a few years ago. It's just visually lovely. That was one inspiration, or just classic graphic novels. Of course, Möbius, everyone kind of knows is one inspiration, but this whole school of comic artists kind of is. So it's just something that's very like appealing to us, I guess, something that's not realistic, but just a bit of, I don't know, a bold decision in some other direction, so to say. And then, of course, it kind of also has the added benefit that we're a team of only 9 people, so realism would be like just too work-intensive for us as well. So it kind of, it's a perfect meeting of what we enjoy and what we think players enjoy, and yet it's a style that we can handle with a comparatively small team.
So we're both from the city, and we only know the towns or villages that Hinterberg is inspired by. We only know these from vacations, pretty much. And being raised around the Alps, both of us, went skiing a lot when we were kids. And when we started working on this game, Corona was just in full swing. And at some point, we took a trip around Austria because flying was not a thing back then. We went to various different cities or villages and just went hiking and just had a good look around and said, this is kind of an interesting setting for a game, right? It's not your average fantasy town. It's not a real place, but it's inspired by real places somewhere in the middle of Europe, and it's somewhere that a lot of people would normally not be able to go to, and that might just be an interesting, experience as a game, an interesting backdrop, an interesting setting.
Yeah, we kind of merged a lot of typical Austrian towns. Like Hallstatt is one of the classics, which is like popular all over the world. I think it's picturesque. Yeah, nice little town by the lake. And then there's others like Bad Gastein, which is also known as having had a huge like tourism kind of industry and was very in. And we looked at all these places and we kind of merged a lot of the typical stuff into one. Like Hinterberg itself is not one place. It's kind of, I don't know, what makes the soul of an alpine small town kind of all in one.
Yeah. So also you're going to this place as a tourist in the game, and that's just the experience that we had, right? We found that kind of interesting, this kind of mode of experiencing what is supposed to be your own culture, but you're kind of an outsider there, right? You go there, you take a hike, you go eat at an inn. Yeah, you experience it sort of. Yeah, you're kind of a guest. And so that's something we directly drew inspiration for the game from as well.
That's always a hard question. What are we most excited about? And maybe it's a bit of a cop-out what I'm going to say, but it is kind of that the game has this many aspects, and you can focus, your playstyle kind of can be quite different. Like people can socialize a lot or not at all. Some people are really more into the adventuring. You can do it very relaxed and easygoing, or you can really try to make a challenge out of it. You can spend a lot of time with like the little systems that might change how you behave in combat or something, or you might not be interested. And I'm super looking forward to what people make of that, and if any of that turns out to be like universally popular, or if everyone has a different approach, will be cool to see.
My answer would be, I've already talked about this a little bit, how we enjoy games for offering, different spaces that you can inhabit for a while. And I do think that the game stands out in that regard. And I'm super curious to see if players will agree with that. If they go away from the experience and say, this kind of resonated with me, this stuck in my memory because it's such an unusual place for a game to take place in. That's kind of my hope, that people take that away from it, that it's an interesting space to play in. Dungeons of Hinterberg comes out on July 18th on Steam, Xbox, and Game Pass. And please go wishlist it now.
It's the one relaxing yet adventurous vacations in the Alps you can take with magic and charming village life.
It's a vacation role-playing game.